Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Data Playbook. It's week 16, and we have our Sunday games to go through after a couple Saturday games and Thursday night. And there's no major updates to the tool, but I do expect to get to more over the next couple weeks. So if you want to see what updates come out, go ahead and give a subscribe so you can follow along. But other than that, let's get into our game data. Continuing through our games, we have Kansas City at Tennessee, where Kansas City is favored on the money line with a spread of 2.5 and a total line of 37.5. There's your seasonal averages. And looking at their rankings, you have Kansas City with a scoring rank of 15, a passing rank of 5, a rushing rank of 19, and a tight end rank of 5. Defensively, they're pretty good too, with a allowed scoring rank of 4, allowed passing rank of 10, allowed rushing rank of 8, and allowed tight end rank of 12. And they're going against Tennessee with one of the worst offenses, with a scoring rank of 31, a passing rank of 31, and a rushing rank of 30. And defensively, they're not much better, with an allowed scoring rank of 28, allowed passing rank of 26, and allowed rushing rank of 22. For your quarterbacks, you have Patrick Mahomes out, so Gardner Minshew is coming in, with no fantasy points this season, and no real data to speak of, so his averages won't make sense either, and he only has the one interception this season. For Cam Ward, he averages 10.2 fantasy points per game, and here's his averages, with 7 interceptions this season, and 6 fumbles lost due to sacks. Looking at the impact of the rushing game, we obviously know that Minshew gets nothing right at this point, since he has had less than 1% of the carry share and less than 1% of the rushing yard share. But for Cam, he's at 11.5% of the rushing carry share and 10.9% of the rushing yard share. For your running backs, you have Isaiah Pacheco and Tony Pollard, with Pacheco averaging 6.4 fantasy points per game and Pollard at 11. Here's their seasonal averages, with no turnovers coming from Pacheco, but Pollard having 2 rushing fumbles and 1 receiving fumble this season. For their share, you have Pacheco at 29.3% of the rushing carry share and about 26.9% of the rushing yard share. Of course, sharing a lot of that with Kareem Hunt, and the next largest portion also being Patrick Mahomes, which we know now is not going to impact this game. For Tennessee, you have Pollard at 70% of the rushing carry share and 71.4% of the rushing yard share, with the next largest portion of that going to the backup, Spears. For your number one receivers, you have Xavier Worthy, because Rashid Rice is listed as out, and then Alec Ayomanor, with Worthy averaging 8.6 fantasy points per game, and Alec averaging about 6.6. Here's your seasonal averages, so go ahead and pause the video if you want to look at this in more detail. But otherwise, looking at their share, you have Worthy at 14.3% of the target share, and 13.7% of the receiving yard share. And then you have Alec at 17.3% of the target share and 15.1% of the receiving yard share. For your number 2 receivers, I cannot bring up Hollywood Brown for some reason, so I'll have to go investigate that. So I'll bring up Juju Smith-Schuster instead, and then Shamir Dyke, with Smith-Schuster averaging 4.5 fantasy points per game and Dyke at 7.1. Here are their seasonal averages, and no turnovers. So going straight into their share, you have Juju at 7.7% of the target share and about 8.5% of the receiving yard share. And then you have Dyke at 15.3% of the target share and 12.3% of the receiving yard share. Finally, with our tight ends, we have Travis Kelce and Gunnar Helm, with Kelce getting an average of 12.8 fantasy points per game and Helm at an average of 6.3. And with no turnovers, again, go ahead and give a pause if you want to look through it in more detail, but we'll move on to the charts, where you have Kelce at 19.6% of the target share and 22.2% of the receiving yard share, and that does make him the most productive receiver on the team. With Gunnar Helm, you're at 12.7% of the target share and 14.2% of the receiving yard share. And that wraps up all our data for this game. It does seem like the numbers would clearly stand out for Kansas City in almost every single way. I don't think there's one that Tennessee has that's better than Kansas City's rankings here. However, without Mahomes, this passing rank is due to drop, and just without the team's cohesiveness, it might be a little bit different. So expect there probably to be a much closer game, but even with Minshew playing, I do think that Tennessee has such a disadvantage that they still lose this game, giving it to Kansas City in the end. So there you are with that data. I hope you found it informational and useful, and if you did, leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment on what else you'd want to see in the future. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next game.